do longevity diet supplements work?
There is no one diet for longevity.
Yeah, so Brian Johnson can
do what he wants.
I want to know your take on supplements. Some people will say it's as good as going down the gutter.
Supplements are...
What is functional medicine and how is it different from traditional medicine?
Some things medicine tries to prevent, but the tools that they use to do that are so crude and so late, doesn't do a very good job at them.
If you are new here, I'm Garima, the host of Popkast with Garima, and this is season 4. Oh, and a big shout out to Rollercoaster.health. Rollercoaster.health is a women's healthcare company which supports you in your hormonal highs and lows and twists and turns. Thank you, Rollercoaster.health.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, finally, after all the conversations and like multiple email exchanges.
Nice to finally do this.
And thanks to Anupa for having us and hosting us literally.
So, functional medicine. Let's first start with, tell me the difference, tell everybody the difference. What is functional medicine and how is it different from traditional medicine? Like if I go to a doctor, what is the difference between what a functional medicine doctor is going to talk to me about versus traditional doctor?
Okay, so the big difference with functional medicine is it understands that the body is a set of systems that interact with each other rather than just being separate organs that work in isolation, right? So if you go to your regular doctor with headaches, right, they will think about it, and this is the way we were all taught. I was originally taught this way through traditional medical teaching and medical school, is that you think about things from a symptom point of view, you work out which organ is involved, and there'll be a list of diagnoses that may be the cause, and you work out which one of those it is. If it's not one of those, then this patient doesn't have a problem. They don't have a disease, right? So that's the traditional, probably incomplete picture that standard medical practice gives you. Now, functional medicine exists in a place where we understand the body as lots of different systems on a cellular level that all interact with each other. So they break it down into 7 systems, and forgive me if I forget 1 or 2, but they consist of assimilation and elimination of your nutrients. So that's, for normal kind of layman speak, your gut, right? So how you take in nutrients, how your body deals with those, how it gets rid of them, right? Another one might be how your body produces energy. So your mitochondria are the energy producing factories in every cell. So how well is your body producing energy? Other things might be how your body is communicating between different organs and to the other systems in your body. So that might be things like your hormones. And hormones not just being your sex hormones, but things like insulin, growth hormone, lots of other things. So these, I won't go through the whole list, but these are a few examples. And it's understanding that health and disease exist on a continuum, and it's not binary. So what functional medicine does, it realizes that before you get to disease at that arbitrary binary point, there's a whole continuum of imbalance, and we're correcting imbalances. You know, a big part of functional medicine sort of practice is that we can assess some of these finer, more subtle imbalances, and then try to bring those back in. So I sometimes when I explain it to my patients, is that you sort of imagine a polygon where there's 7 nodes, right? The 7 areas of imbalance that I just described. And imagine if they're all in perfect sync, it's a perfect circle with 7 points. And if you so the more imbalance you get, you bring each one of those points in towards the middle, right? And that shape looks very funny. If you bring it, it's a 7-pointed shape. But so what we do is we try and push those nodes back into balance. And what you realize is that once you start pushing things back towards balance, and you just optimize the factors that promote health, disease often goes away as a side effect.
So what I gather is that if the roof, if it's a leaky roof, then you put a bucket, which is like going to a doctor, which is a quick fix. But in functional medicine, I would actually climb up, go to the roof, see what's exactly causing the leakage and what do I need to fix in there.
Exactly.
Right?
That's a very good analogy.
Okay. Leaky roof. Cool. But you said that even if I don't have a disease, can I still go to a functional doctor and check with him in those 7 aspects? Where do I need balancing?
Of course, yeah. We get that a lot, is because you may not have symptoms that you realize, but a big part of those nodes is actually how your body is functioning in terms of the things that your body needs to do to prevent getting disease, right? So one of those nodes is your immune system. And there can be lots of signs of dysfunction in your immune system, right? People often come to your regular doctor saying, I keep getting these infections, I keep getting colds, and they don't get very unwell with them, but something's not quite right? Or somebody might come and say, I'm just feeling brain fog. Or they might not, they might not attribute it to that, because most people, unless you are a happy and running around child, most people have some imbalances, because that's life. Life creates imbalances. The external world, unfortunately, we live in a world where there's a lot of external stress on us, not just psychological, but actually physical, in terms of the food environment we live in now, pollution, toxic exposure to lots of things. There is always going to be something that is not fully aligned. And sometimes intervening before it becomes a problem allows you to then create a strategy for yourself where you're preventing that happening in the first place. Well, some things medicine tries to prevent, but the tools that they use to do that are so crude and so late, doesn't do a very good job at them.
Yeah.
So that's the problem we have, and obviously there's lots of reasons why the healthcare system is the way it is, because it makes money for a lot of people being the way it is.
Yeah. I think what you said is so true, because healthcare system, and I thought it was only in India, but it's everywhere, and it's got to do with the patient's mentality also. It's more reactive than proactive. I will only go see a doctor if something really is chronically bothering me, but I wouldn't go to check if everything inside my body is functioning to its optimum level. How can I optimize for it to function on its optimum levels? We do have a bunch of technologies like an ultra-human ring, or there's this super cool company that's just recently launched in SF. They're still in their beta version. It's called Superpower. And Superpower I think they take around 100 plus or 200 plus biomarkers, and basis those biomarkers, they will make a roadmap for you at every stage of your life. That's a free plugin for Superpower. But do you think these kind of technologies are what healthcare should be geared towards than just going to a regular doctor? Because they will then have your entire blueprint of everything that's going on in your body.
I think technology, I'm a big fan of technology. I think it will revolutionize, and it is revolutionizing what we do with healthcare.
And particularly healthcare, yeah.
But I think we have to be cautious of what it can do and what it can't do. Because I think there's more to health than all those numbers. There will not be biomarkers for every aspect of your health. And one quite important one, which is your emotional and your mental well-being, right? And I think there's real value in going back to the essence of a doctor-patient relationship, because we are social creatures. We are humans that need connection, and I think having that with someone who then, yes, with all the data at hand, I think data is really helpful. The more data you have, often the better. But data without the right guidance can be dangerous for lots of reasons, for patient and for doctor. For some people, they enjoy having all that data. They enjoy all the numbers, tracking everything. You've got your Aura ring or your superhuman ring, and you're kind of tracking lots of things. And for some people, that creates anxiety. That creates health anxiety, and health anxiety is a big problem. And because we're in the age of the internet and information and data, it's that age-old thing that half knowledge is more dangerous than no knowledge.
Yeah. Also, I think hospitals are not designed to keep patients in mind. They're more designed to keep diseases in mind, right? So the patient well-being is often, and I've felt that, right? It's not often designed for the well-being of the patient. It's more very disease-centric. So again, the same thing of healthcare in general being more reactive than proactive.
Indeed.
So this is a very important question and a very interesting one. I want to know your take on supplements, how efficacious they are. Is there a particular time for a particular supplement to work in terms of its full absorption and bioavailability? And in general, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, some people love supplements, they take a handful of them. Some people will say that it bypasses your gut. It's as good as going down the gutter. It's coming out of your pee becomes yellow. What is the truth?
Supplements are what they say on the tin. They are supplements.
Okay.
So they are not the core of anything that's going to, on its own, create health. But they supplement where you have gaps. And I think the biggest thing with supplements is they can be really helpful, but it depends. They have to be individualized. So I think if anybody tells you, take this supplement, it's going to be great for you, without checking your physiology and your gaps and your imbalances, the chances of it working are low. So that's a big thing, a really important thing to do, is that we use supplements in our practice, but targeted supplements. So it's not the basis of your whole longevity strategy or otherwise. It's we test and we find out where your gaps are based off your genetic predispositions, your actual imbalances that exist, and then we prescribe accordingly, right? So that might range from vitamins, specific kinds of vitamins, to longevity supplements like spermidine or hormones in that context, because hormones in a way are supplemental, right? So it really varies person to person. So I think you hear lots of people taking big stacks of supplements every day, and I think if that's targeted and guided, then wow, they probably have a lot of imbalances because they need all the supplements, right? So most people don't need that many, and I think I'm a big believer in, like, say, if you get your house in order first, get the big things right first, often the need for supplements is not that huge.
Yeah.
So like, this is one small example, but it's about targeting it to that person, and that's how supplements should be used, and that's how we use them.
Yeah, like for vegetarians, which I am, like we don't have a source of B12, and so I have to take B12.
Yeah.
If you're living in London, you have to take D3, right?
Well, everybody in the UK is recommended to take D3 all year round, at least in the winter.
What's the best time to take D3?
Doesn't really matter.
Anytime?
Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever you want to take it in the day, it's 800 to 1,000 units daily. Anybody in above a certain latitude latitude, because we just don't get enough sun in this country. So and most of your vitamin D is coming from the sunlight, as you know.
Yeah.
So that's just a blanket statement. Everybody should just take 800 to 1,000 units of vitamin D.
Okay, cool. You spoke about longevity drugs, and I was reading yesterday that there's a brand called OneSkin which recently secured funding, and they are a longevity skincare brand. So they will work on your stem cells and just basically claim to say that you can be forever youthful. Do longevity diets, longevity skincare, longevity supplements work, or is it just a fad?
I think that's probably too broad. The terms are probably too broad to answer in one brush, right? Like, what are we calling longevity supplements? What are we calling longevity diets? Supplements, as I said, it needs to be very personalized. There are some supplements we do use purely for a longevity basis, and not because you need it, not because you have to have it, but it's kind of geared to people who want to try it. So none of these are proven yet. That's the fair thing to say. There are no supplements that are proven clinically in humans to extend your life.
I see.
But there are a lot of supplements with some evidence that they change some of these biomarkers that are linked to aging. But does that translate into hard outcomes for a human being today?
Yeah.
We don't know yet, because we've just started. But there hasn't been a generation of people before us who have taken these for long enough to know.
Yeah.
So it's very it's fairly experimental. Most of these things are actually, in the UK at least, not licensed for even use. They're licensed for research purposes, and some people want to use them. So source them. You can buy them online.
Okay.
Claim you're doing some research and buy them online. And with the guidance of someone like myself or a colleague, may choose to use it, but they're not proven. They're not proven. Diet, on the other hand, so to diet, there is again. Diet's a little sort of very, very favourite topic of mine, because there is no one diet for longevity. There just isn't one.
Yeah, so Brian Johnson can
do what he wants, but spend all the money he wants.
Yeah.
There is no one diet because there's many ways to skin a cat, right? Because what you have to work backwards from is what are the goals for that person at that point in time of their life. And that changes. The goalposts are moving. There is. I couldn't today say to you, eat this way for the next 50 years and you'll be great. you'll live a long and healthy life. That won't happen because your needs will change between now and 5 years time, 10 years time, when when you're postmenopausal, all these other things, right? So, and depending on what happens in your life as a whole, right? In terms of, we are not just these robots with inputs and outputs. Other things happen in our life. There's no magic solution, and I don't think there ever will be, because it's about that one-to-one. What do you need? How do we assess you right now? And we'll tweak that as we go along. And that's the longevity blueprint, I think.
So I don't have to waste my 300 pounds on Augustinus Bader or La Mer creams, because it's not going to get me all glowing and anti-wrinkles. I can leave that.
I'll be honest, I don't know their technology and what they're doing. So I don't want to just kind of poo-poo it. But I think a lot of my work is about longevity, right? People often equate that to aesthetics, so I don't like that blurring, because I think aesthetics is a different part of medicine, and that's kind of about appearance. And not to say that's wrong or anything like that, but that's a very different focus. And I think my argument is if you generate health and optimal health from within, then that shows externally. So yes, you could do what you want on the surface. And yes, these things might artificially, it's like saying if you get Botox, right? You can get rid of some wrinkles, but what's the underlying cause, and what's driven those, and I mean, wrinkles aren't a bad thing. We should embrace wrinkles. It's just an example, but it's that sort of mentality. It's the difference in ideology for me. It's longevity is about internal health
and not fear mongering. About aging.
No, I think we should embrace aging. I don't think longevity for me is not about fearing getting old or living forever. It's about, how do you get to your last years of life being able to do the things you really want to do at that point in life, and also not spending the last 10 years of your life frail and dependent or unwell, right?
So, like me, a lot of people just say, I am my best creative self at night, and we expose a lot of blue light to ourselves at night, work at night, and sleep and blue light aren't best friends as we know it. So just tell me about how much of this is true, in the sense that because sleep is the most important thing even for longevity and just having a great well-being in general. And also about these standing desks, because you said the sedentary lifestyle and just movement is important. So talk to me about both these things.
Okay, so let's with the blue light. Yes, blue light is a problem, particularly at night. And not just, blue light, not just from screens, but even just light in the house. We've evolved through thousands and thousands of years in an environment without artificial light. And relatively recently, I don't know when Edison created the light bulb, but relatively recently in our evolution, we've been exposed to artificial light. And it really does mess with our circadian rhythm. So there is truth in that. Through different age stages of life, you do get these slight shifts in what we call chronotype. Chronotype is, are you a morning person or are you a night owl? Right? So you do see those shifts, and there's lots of theories about kind of evolutionarily why that might be, which we maybe won't go into. But there are slight shifts, but by and large, every human on this planet is guided by that 24-hour circadian rhythm because of light. And it's because that's just the rate of the rotation of the Earth. So most of us will have a 24-hour clock. And sleep is, so how do we sleep, right? Why do we sleep, and how does that come about? Kind of two driving forces. One is the cycle of your melatonin levels, which ideally should trough and reach their lowest point at that late evening when you should be going to sleep, and they should coincide ideally with when the sun goes down. The second thing that controls how easy it is to fall asleep and stay asleep is your sleep pressure. And that's a chemical called adenosine that builds up in our brain. So from the minute you wake up in the morning, you have adenosine as sort of it's just building up. It's building up. And ideally what you want to happen is both adenosine reaches its peak and melatonin reaches its trough at that same time that you need to go to sleep.
Okay.
Go to sleep. And that's ideal. And that usually leads to someone, we all have that someone, I used to be that someone, but maybe not that someone now, but who just, you can fall asleep really easily. You'd hit the bed, you're already tired. You'll be asleep before your partner can turn around and check you're awake. So
Okay.
light really interferes with that. I think what I usually tell most of my patients is, especially if they're struggling with sleep, is after 6 p.m. turn off all your kind of spotlights or any bright lights in the house. Use low level lamps. Try to recreate what we used to be like thousands of years ago. So we might have a small fire, or you might have low level lighting here, and stick with that. And obviously we all know about screens and phones, and I mean that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down, phones and social media and all that. But light is important. That really does dictate a lot of our sleep pattern.
Okay. And what about this fad of standing desks? Do you think it helps? Because like when we're just sitting throughout the day, and sitting is the least rebellious thing that we can do in the day.
Yeah. I think they help, right? But I think I always say this to my patients, is compared to what, right? So if the alternative for you is just sitting, if you're just going to be sitting and that's all you're going to be doing, then yeah, standing and being able to move a bit more freely is going to be better for you. But it's important not to take that as a replacement for more. Because so I think any health intervention, longevity strategy or intervention, you have to say compared to what? Right? So if it's compared to someone, if you're going to be if the alternative is you're going to be sitting at your desk all day, then yeah, standing desk is a great idea.
Yeah.
But don't take it as a replacement for doing more movement and more exercise.
Oh yeah. So if I'm standing like for 8 hours of my work shift, I'll not do any other movement.
No, so that doesn't count.
No shortcuts. Okay. If anybody who is listening to this podcast should know top 3 things for them to optimize their life's health span, not lifespan, what are the top 3 things in your mind everybody should do without fail?
3 is quite hard.
Oh, I was saying 5 and then I cut it to 3.
Let's start with 3 and I'll see if I can sneak in one more. The most important thing I would say is keep your mind well. Keep your mind happy. De-stress, right? So that I'll cheat and put that into 1. So mental health is 1. Move, but more than move. Yeah, move in whatever way you enjoy, but move to train. So move to progress your physical capacity. Because there will come a tipping point in all of our lives where the decline begins, and you can slow that decline, but it will be inevitable. But if it's like if you build up a retirement pot, right? So if your pot is this big, and you've got 20 years to live, right? After that, you've got a lot of leeway to use that up. But if your pot is this big, you'll run out before your life is up. And the health analogy being, if you build up enough in your younger years and you proactively move and build muscle and build fitness, then you've got a longer runway to allow for that decline. And even when you're 80, you'll be, by anybody else's standards, pretty fit. And then the final thing I would say is sleep.
Okay, mental health, move, and sleep.
Yeah, I was choosing between sleep or eat. Something to do with diet, but I think sleep comes first, because without sleep is sort of the foundation upon which you can build all those other things. Because if you don't do sleep, you will not be able to do the other things.
Okay. Well, this is, I think, a great note to end our conversation. I have so many burning questions, but possibly I will pick your brain some other time, and maybe we can do a part 2 of our conversation.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, Anupa, are you hearing us? We're going to do a part 2. But thank you so much, Doctor. This has been very, very insightful. I think for me, the goal was that, as I said earlier, that as founders, we seldom take the time to think about our own wellness, and we don't get the time with all the hustle bustle of our lives, with just so much happening around us, work, and you are juggling multiple hats, of course. So thank you so much for taking out the time for doing this pranayam, breathwork exercise, for answering my questions, and for all your time.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Ankit. Thank you.